What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Week 14 edition of the Underdog Drafter Party. I'm Jake, here with my co-host, one of the best football writers around, Ryan Heath. We're going to be drafting some Battle Royale teams, talking about our favorite scroll-down options, and discussing contest-specific strategy throughout the show. We can also get to any pressing Week 14 questions you guys may have. I know this is a big week in fantasy football. I am fighting in my home league to avoid some serious punishment. To avoid a bottom two spot in a 10-man league. Ryan, how are you doing? How's your redraft season going with things coming down to the wire here?
So the redraft team that I am most invested in is the one that I am co-managing with FantasyPoints CEO Scott Barrett. We need to win to get into the playoffs in Edwin Porris's league. We've been rolling out a 0 QB build. We got Jameis Winston. We're trying to survive the Drake May bye this week. Exciting stuff. A lot of people in that league I want to beat.
Yeah, I think especially if you're grinding like Battle Royale, DFS, redraft sort of takes a backseat all year, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I'm fighting for a playoff spot, or I'm fighting for seeding, or you're in the playoffs. And that's when things really start to get exciting. So if you guys have any redraft related questions, we're more than happy to help you out during this show. But standard format, we will go position by position. We'll talk about contest selection a little bit after that, and then we will get into some drafts. The Dog Bowl is also this week, and that will point us towards sort of a new 12-man draft contest that I'm really, really excited about in the goal line stand. It's a bit of a different format compared to previous weeks, but let's start out with the quarterback position, as we always do. Ryan, I think my clear lean at the top is Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen. Josh Allen at pick 5 feels a bit high to me. After that, it's really just what stack do you want to build? Because as you can see, no one's going higher than Tua, QB3 at a 27 ADP. Normally we have a bit flatter quarterback ADPs throughout drafts, but it's really just Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and then a massive drop off to the rest of the field. You see that at DFS pricing this week as well. What are your thoughts at quarterback?
Yep, I'm with you on leaning Hurts over Allen, both because I think just the spike upside is higher. Jalen Hurts is the only QB on this slate that can score 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns. So that's a totally fine angle to play. I think in BR, I would just play him naked most of the time, especially in this matchup. It just seems unlikely that an AJ Brown is going to get there for where you're going to have to draft him, especially kind of around the turn. That's just very thin and hard to make work. But yeah, other than that, I just kind of am not caring about ownership of the quarterback position because I just think it's going to be relatively flat. Wouldn't be surprised if by Sunday morning, someone else other than Tua and Baker are kind of the ones above the 30 ADP. I don't think any of these guys stand out that much. And I will say with the Tua, with the Baker, it's very easy to make those stacks unique. With Tua, you can just add a Jalen Waddle to it. Who has a kind of interesting schematic angle with the Jets playing a lot of cover 4, with Waddle being one of the most efficient receivers in the league against quarters. And also with Mayfield, Kate Otten is going outside of the top 6 tight ends. So that right there is an immediate, easy way to make a Baker stack a lot more unique, especially because I think a lot of people will be wanting to play Baker with Brock Bowers. Not that that's a bad idea necessarily. But yeah, other than that, I guess my preferred scroll downs here are going to be Jameis Winston. We talked about it on Cashing Points, but just kind of any game with Jameis Winston can turn into a shootout regardless of matchup, as we saw on Sunday night or Monday night or whenever that ridiculous game was. And then Matthew Stafford doubles are very easy to build this week. I know like last week you'd have to do kind of an awkward reach for to get Puka and Cup onto the same team, you can do it pretty easily from any draft spot now to get both of them and top it off with Stafford. And that's the highest total game of the slate too, but kind of by far. So theoretically, it should be the best shootout environment. So that's something I'm going to be leaning into a little bit.
Yeah, definitely think those are good angles in total agreement there. I will say that Sam Darnold, he's the QB6 right now. He's actually our QB3 in terms of projection, about a half point higher than Baker Mayfield, who is clocking in at QB4. So he's a guy that I certainly don't mind later in drafts if you're looking to projection max. And I'm pretty skeptical of Will Levis being chalky in DFS, but I think in Battle Royale, especially in these 12-man drafts, where he's the QB 13, I think it's totally reasonable in the single softest schedule adjusted matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. After Levis is off the board, I guess maybe you could argue for Geno Smith, but I don't think I'm going to get to guys like Aiden O'Connell, Aaron Rodgers. So that would sort of be my cutoff point, would be right around Levis, Geno, even in those 12-man drafts. Moving on to running back here. This is a very interesting running back week. I think we have two clear top plays in Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara. Saquon in particular is faced with just such a great spot. For one, he has 5 of the top 10 highest scoring fantasy performances of any running back this season. Carolina also the single softest schedule adjusted matchup for opposing running backs. Philadelphia is a massive favorite. Barkley should get fed here. That said, Alvin Kamara probably presents a stronger floor given that he catches so many passes. Obviously, no Taysom Hill this week. New Orleans really just doesn't have any pass catchers at all left at this point in the season. Kamara projecting extremely, extremely well. Also a very strong matchup. Also a positive game script. I outright prefer, Saquon as the 101. And then Kamara, I think, is pretty clearly the 102. And then there is a massive drop off before we get to a guy like Devon Achane. We have about a 5-point drop off in our projections before then. So, Ryan, before I let you go on running back, got to get to my boy Jordan Vanek's question here. What do you think Jake does first in the morning? Brushes his teeth or kisses his imaginary girlfriend? I would never kiss my imaginary girlfriend with my gross morning breath. So I always brush my teeth first before I kiss that lovely, very real, very, very real lady. She goes to a different school. That's why you don't know her. I met her at camp. Ryan, what are your thoughts at running back?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in alignment with you, where how profitable I expect my week to be is just going to be how many 101s and 102s did I get, which is kind of frustrating.
Especially in 12-mans, it's going to be a very extreme equity difference between the 101 and the 107 or the 109 or the 112. I mean, it is a massive gap this week. And the dog bowls this week, like I believe I mentioned at the top of the show. So if you're playing in the dog bowl, if you're one of the, I believe it's 29 entrants across 36 total entries, the 3 entries that get Saquon Barkley are going to have massively outsized EV compared to everyone else. And the 9 entries that get the top 3 running backs are also going to have massively outsized equity compared to everyone else. So something to keep in mind this week is that pick spot is very, very valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm with you on HN at 103. Bijan, I do think presents a pretty good value, like consolation prize type of player. If you are getting stuck with the 106, I wouldn't have him that far behind HN. His workload has just been amazing the past few weeks. Every single carry inside the 10 over the last 3 or 4, or whenever it was that Tyler Algier gets stuffed at the goal line 3 times. We've been harping on this for weeks now. And yeah, for some reason, Bijan is just not being viewed or treated as kind of the every down bell cow that he was originally drafted as in redraft. So that's good. After Bijan, I'm just waiting at the running back position. Everyone else after that, the projections just kind of flatten out a lot. We could have some really good scrolls open up on Sunday morning, potentially. Ken Walker looks very questionable. If he were out, then Zach Charbonnet would be one of the better plays here, especially because he's not going to have barely any ownership. Same kind of deal with Rashad White and Bucky Irving. I'd say Irving's more likely to play considering he was playing through his injury in the second half last week. But if he's out for some reason, Rashad White instantly becomes my favorite like late running back click of the slate, because that is just an incredible game environment. But yeah, outside of that, I would just be waiting. Like I don't feel any certain type of way about a James Cook who just continues losing all of this work to Ray Davis. Garendo is fine, but I don't like him that much more than I do an Aaron Jones who, yeah, like 3 out of his past 4 weeks, his snap share has been terrible, but 2 of them were because of injury. Last week, it was because he fumbled on 2 of his first 4 carries. Yep. You would hope that has kind of been forgiven after he caught the game-winning touchdown, that he gets back up to that 80% snap share, opportunity share that we're used to from him. So I think he stands out as a pretty good value here. But other than that, like all of these guys kind of towards the 30s are just similar like game script bets. Tony Pollard is pretty strong in that scenario. Same with Najee Harris. But after that, yeah, I have trouble talking myself into like the Tyrone Tracy's and the DeAndre Swifts. I guess they're fine, but yeah, just on these game script sensitive running backs on these underdog teams are not really where I want to go. And yeah, I don't know if I talked about how much I like how many running backs I'd rather play than Braylon Allen on the main slate enough on cashing points, but yeah, it's kind of wild to me that he's just being anointed because he looked good for 2 weeks earlier in the season under a completely different OC. But yeah, I don't know. Not buying the Braylon Allen stuff that much.
Yeah. I mean, the workload should be good for Braylon Allen. I just have massive offensive efficiency concerns. I think, a guy like DeAndre Swift, I'm totally okay with in like the 6th round of a 6-man draft. It's obviously tough given that San Francisco is favored there, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if they sort of fell off. No Trent Williams. The team is very, very beat up overall. So maybe Swift could get you there. I think Charbonnet is probably the most interesting overall. I mean, we know he's going to be a true bell cow if Walker is ruled out. Problem with him is a 6th round pick is you can't really click on him until we know that Walker's out, because if Walker does play, he's total dust. I'd pretty much have anyone else on the screen over Zach Charbonnet if Walker ends up being active. Jordan Van Eck also brought up, did you guys see the Seattle stat? The majority of the rushing attempts they have had are them getting hit before the line of scrimmage. That is absolutely insane and explains a lot when it comes to this backfield's production. I mean, I think it's Johnny Proctor who has anointed Kenneth Walker as a Ponzi scheme. And, I can't help but agree at this point. I think we covered running back enough here. We can move on to wide receiver. Sort of a tricky week at wide receiver in the fact that there are no like really strong high end options. Obviously, guys like Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Puka, Evans, Tyreek Hill, those are guys that we know have massive upside. None of them are in particularly great spots this week. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the top end of wide receiver? Because I generally find myself starting off, double running back in a lot of these drafts, or running back tight end, as we'll get to shortly. There are some very strong tight end plays on this slate. What do you think about these wide receivers here?
Yeah, of these wide receivers, clearly my favorite kind of earlier guy is Mike Evans. The Raiders have been this massive pass funnel. They've not generated very much pressure over the entire season. Evans is one of the most pressure-sensitive receivers in the league. I'm probably going to have a lot of exposure to him just stacked with Mayfield on this slate. So I'm happy to click Evans, but yeah, nobody else feels that good outside of like the game stack related bets. I mentioned it's easy to build Puka plus Cup just because of the ADP gap this week. So that's one angle there. But yeah, no one else really jumps out to me at the top. Do you have anyone you really like kind of as a scroll down for receiver either? Because I'm having a lot of trouble with the receiver position this week. Gonna be honest.
I think it's definitely one of the trickiest elements of the slate. I did want to say, like, for DFS, this absolutely is not in play because of salary constraints, but I think like an interesting angle maybe for the Puka Cup teams are you draft Josh Allen as your first round pick, and then you grab a Puka second round. A Cup, probably could get third or fourth. Josh Allen probably outscores Matthew Stafford. I think in DFS, he's just really tough to play because you don't quite know who to stack him with. And obviously you can't really play him with Puka and Cup because it just uses too much salary. It really leaves you in a tough spot for the other position. So I think that's sort of an interesting way you could play the doubles there with Puka and Cup. Beyond that, when it gets to scroll downs, I mean, you're right. It's really, really tough. If Malik Neighbors plays, he projects as a very strong value for us. As you can see, sort of based on our preliminary rankings, I have taken a decent amount of sixth round Malik Neighbors. The problem is we're still not quite sure he's going to play. And, even if he does, this Giants offense quarterbacked by Drew Lock is not something I am super excited about. Beyond that, yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like I'm not drafting Marvin Harrison on teams that don't have at least one of Geno Smith or Kyler Murray, obviously, preferably Kyler there. I'm probably not taking Keenan Allen on any teams that don't have Caleb Williams or Brock Purdy. This is really, really tough in the sense that I just don't see many players here that I really like as raw values. Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams are projecting decently well for us. So I'm sort of fine with those guys as like late round one-offs if you need a sixth round wide receiver, but I'm also just not particularly excited about it given how inept this Jets defense has been. Although if I could give, any take, it would be that Nick Westbrook-Akina should not be going ahead of Garrett Wilson and Amari Cooper and Jalen Waddle. That might be the funniest ADP we've seen all year. Dotboy Fresh in the chat asked about Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley is a very strong play. The matchup's really, really good. At wide receiver 13, he's certainly a guy that I like a lot. Him and Jacoby Myers are both strong plays overall. If we're just looking at sub 30 ADP guys, they should both probably be going a little bit higher than they currently are. Dotboy Fresh is in our Discord. He's been able to take advantage of the free ranks that we drop in there Saturday around noon. Those are super, super helpful. You can just upload them straight into Underdog. It's basically a blend of Underdog ADP and our projections to show off what the top values are on a given slate. So, something that I use while we draft, I sort of have like a beta of our rankings on or in Underdog right now. As you'll see when we actually hop into some drafts, you can also see those on the right side of my screen. Ryan, anything to add on wide receiver before we move on to tight end?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Myers and Ridley being the best kind of one-off later receivers. I don't know that you're going to get that much of an ownership discount. I think kind of based on this conversation we're having, the key to this slate really is you want to be correlating, of course. There are no like standout game environments we are super certain you're going to have. So I think it's really as you're going into a draft, pick your quarterback, know what your stack is. Cause all of these guys can certainly pop off within the context of a correlated game stack, but just nobody sticks out as an individual bet really at all. And because there's so many quarterbacks that are going to have relatively low ownership, I think that's fine. I don't think you have to get like extremely, unique at all of the other positions this week, unless you're on like a Jalen Hurts team or something like that.
Yep. Right there with you. We can move on to tight end here. This is a really strong week for the tight end position overall. Brock Bowers, I think, is an awesome play. I put in our Discord that I think I'd be comfortable taking him as early as pick 5. Projects very, very well for us, I believe. Let me pull up our wide receiver projections here. Brock Bowers would be our wide receiver 4 on this slate. So very, very strong projection for Bowers. Like I said, beyond Bowers, I really like Jonnu. I think I want to get most of my Kittle exposure in DFS, where he's going to be significantly lower owned, but certainly don't mind him in BR. And then after that, I'm probably looking at mostly stacks. Fine with McBride. He's a guy that projects pretty well, but I probably want most of my McBride exposure in Kyler Murray lineups. Ryan, what are your thoughts on tight end? Because it feels similar to wide receiver, but there are better high-end options.
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty perfectly. I would like to have a top 3 tight end on most of my teams. With a pretty big lean towards Bowers and towards Jonnu Smith. I already mentioned that K. Dotton, I think, is a strong option, specifically within the bigger stacks, just because I expect there to be a lot of Brock Bowers exposure in those stacks. So that's one way to get unique, is just to double him up. And you can still have Jacoby Myers as a very nice bring back there too. But I don't think I would go beyond Otten. Like they're not. Yeah, there's just game environment wise and projected role wise, there's just nothing here that excites me after him.
Yeah, that is. I think you just got to kind of be looking at correlating. Juwan Johnson, I think, is fairly interesting, though. We did get a question from Carlos Hernandez in chat about Juwan Johnson with Derek Carr. I mean, the best argument for Juwan right now is that there's just nowhere else for the ball to go. I'm sure they'll trot out a lot of 12 personnel, given that, I mean, Foster Moreau is probably their, third best pass catcher after Juwan Johnson and Alvin Kamara. I mean, I hate to put so much shame on MVS's name and,
what are you doing?
Italian.
MVS just gets like 5 absolute best possible matchups in a row, and he keeps going for 80 yards and multiple touchdowns, and you're besmirching the name of MVS.
Yeah, you might be right, Ryan. Maybe we should make MVS the 101 on this slate. But yeah, I certainly think Juwan Johnson is viable. Not a guy that I'll get to a ton in 6-man drafts, but given we're about to switch over to contests here soon. Given the way 12-man drafts are looking this week, certainly a guy I'm happy to take in the 6th round of a 12-person draft. Okay, we can move on to drafts, look at some contests here. By the way, guys, if you have any pressing week 14 questions, definitely feel free to ask them in the chat. Like I said at the top of the show, I know it's a big week for redraft. Playoffs are about to start. I know a lot of us, including myself, are fighting to get in. So definitely feel free to drop those questions in. Dog Bowls this week. So Dog Bowl qualifiers are no longer on the menu. They sort of made contests smaller for Thanksgiving week. Thankfully, we got things bumped back up. Main Battle Royale back up to 40K to first. The Wildcat is back up to its normal sizing, 37,000 entrants with 10K to first. The big change, though, goal line stand, $15 entry, 7,500 total entrants, $20,000 to first place for 12-man drafts. I love my 12-man drafts, and while I don't think this is the best week of the year for 12-man drafts by any means, this is a contest that I'm really, really excited about. And I also think we have seen some overlay in Battle Royale as Underdog tries to grow the product. This is a tournament that I am fairly confident will overlay this week. As you can see, the fill rate already well behind something like the Wildcat. So we'll see how things are looking, late Saturday, early Sunday morning. But if you do want to chase overlay, I would definitely keep my eye on the goal line stand. Beyond that, it's pretty standard. Fullback dive is something that I generally always put 3 to 5 entries in. Always a strong contest. Same can be said about DeBomb. We also have the Squib Kick, which is another 12-man draft contest. So if you don't want to pay $15 per entry to play in the goal line stand, I think the Squib Kick is a great option if you want to grind those 12-man drafts. Beyond that, it's pretty standard. We've got our community contests with the Deposit Kingdom Weekly League and the Badge Bros Brawl. And then we've got early and late contests, which are pretty standard compared to a normal week. So let's see if we can start things off with a goal line stand entry here. Ryan still needs 4, so I'll probably switch it over to a Wildcat for now, but I'm sure we'll be able to get in a couple of both. If you guys are debating between which one to enter between the Wildcat and the main Battle Royale, I greatly prefer the payout structure in the Wildcat, so that's always my preference. Generally, I'm submitting about 50 entries a week, sometimes closer to 70 into the Wildcat. And you actually do start to get a little bit of rake back. It's not much, but you do get some after you pass, I believe it's 75 drafts. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you do want to, enter a ton of drafts, is that, 20 in the main Battle Royale isn't quite as strong as 75 in the Wildcat, because you do get a little bit of rake back there. And again, I think the payout structure is a bit stronger in the Wildcat. Drew the 105 here, and while we wait for this draft to start, I am sure that we can get to a couple of the questions in the chat. Again, guys, any Week 14 questions you may have, we are more than happy to answer on this lovely Friday night. Nathan DeLong says, pick the best turd of the bunch for redraft playoffs, Week 1 of a 2-week round. Running back, Etienne, Ray Davis, Kendre Miller, Kamani Vidal, PPR. I think you got to go Etienne, right? I mean, I don't really see much upside for any of those other guys unless there is an injury. At least Etienne will be, I think we have him on the slightly more favorable side of like a 55, 60, 40 committee, something like that, right, Ryan?
Yeah, pretty much. They've been making Dearness Johnson inactive last week, likely this week as well. Weirdly, Bigsby, this is the only time I'm going to get to say this in any content, so I'm going to say it. Weirdly, Bigsby is running more routes than ETN their last couple of games together, which is a total reversal from before. But yeah, ETN is still leaning toward more work there, and yeah, I think Bijan is clearly my pick here too.
Yeah, it's just no question for me given the drop off at running back. Yeah, more than happy to pass up guys like Jetta and Josh Allen to grab Bijan. As we noted on Cashing Points, Tyler Algier has not had an inside the 10 carry since he got stuffed 3 times in a row a couple weeks ago. Offensive coordinator Zach Robinson has basically said, we want to give Bijan as many touches as he can handle. His quarterback's playing bad. His backup running back has not been playing very well. So yeah, why not just give the ball to Bijan over and over again? I think we had a couple others here trying to go in game with Mayfield, Evans, and Brock. Maybe add a late round high ceiling guy, Pickens, Devontae Smith. Ryan, what do you think about that? I guess we need to make a pick here first.
Yeah, let's make a pick first.
Yeah. We could go Evans, set ourselves up for a Baker stack. We didn't get Bowers. If not, maybe Jefferson Darnold team.
I think Evans is fine.
All right.
We
can grab Evans here.
Prefer doing that. And I guess that answers the question too. So yeah, I think Mayfield Evans is going to be one of my close to probably a top 2 or top 3 exposure for me on this slate. It's going to be now that I'm thinking about the ADPs, it's going to be hard. Like you can grab both of them from the turn most of the time, which is probably the way you're doing that. And then, you would still have to differentiate in some way, I think, because I can't imagine that both of them together is going to be that unique at all. So yeah, you would have to get unique somewhere else.
Yeah, and there are plenty of late round options available for that, even though it's not a particularly great week for late round values. I still think there are certainly some angles you can take there. Coming up on the 305, so we got Bijan, we got Mike Evans. I think Baker is going. Oh, Baker's the QB4. We still probably don't need to think about him until round 5 or 6. Let's see. What do you think? We could go best available would probably be, let's see, based on our rankings, Kyren, Pollard, maybe a Pickens. I don't hate waiting at running back here. What do you think, Ryan?
I'm tempted to go Jonnu because I agree. Waiting at running back seems wise.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking Jonnu, and then maybe if a guy like Pollard came back around to us, I'd be pretty happy with that. In our I clicked over to wide receiver. In our projections, Johnny Smith is looking pretty strong. Yeah, about a 1.5 less than Trey McBride. But as we covered on Cashing Points, this is just a really strong matchup for Johnny Smith. The fact that the Jets have been playing, or last time these teams played, the Jets played a ton of too high, certainly plays into Johnny Smith here. Ryan, would you have a preference among this sort of cohort of running backs that's likely to fall to us? I think Aaron Jones and Pollard would be my favorites in this range. Obviously, our rankings like Kyren, I just don't see a great ceiling for Kyren. I'd probably be more excited to take him in smaller field contests than I would be in a massive tournament like the Wildcat. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Pollard's pretty clearly my favorite, averaging 20 expected fantasy points per game in games the Titans win. Like I said, it's only a 3-point spread, but you don't get that many opportunities for positive game scripts on the Titans. Tajay Spears only 1 touch last week, so I think he's pretty strong.
Yeah, and as you noted on Cashing Points, the Titans keep saying they want to get Tajay Spears more involved, and it is just not happening at all. Dotboy Fresh says he needs to start 2. Braylon, Tyrone Tracy, or Sincere McCormick. He is fighting to stay out of last place. Dotboy Fresh, I hope your league doesn't have too bad of a punishment. In my home league, got to do a drunk combine. So combine drills from the NFL combine in between each drill, shot of hard liquor. It is not fun. I've avoided it. This is the 5th year of the league. I have finished second twice, finished third once and fourth once, and now I am either going to finish 8th or 9th. 9th and 10th have to do the drunk combine. 8th sneaks by. So, yeah, that's tough. But back to the question, Braylon Allen, Tyrone Tracy, or McCormick. I don't really think McCormick's in play in any sense. So it's really just a Tracy or Braylon Allen. Oh my God, his punishment is an
Oh my God.
Oh geez. Okay, we're gonna need to spend a lot of time on this question, Ryan. We can't get this wrong. We gotta help out the boy. We're coming up. All right, we're coming up on our pick because we're gonna spend a lot of time on this Top Boy Fresh. Don't worry. That is an insane punishment. Okay, yeah. So we have a Bijan, Tony Pollard, Mike Evans, Johnny Smith team. I have Baker Mayfield queued up. He should probably be our pick here. And then, Top Boy Fresh has a quarterback selected, so we can actually go flex in this spot. We already have 2 running backs, so we're only looking at wide receiver. What do you think, Ryan? We could just grab best available in like JSN.
Yeah, I mean, we want
we could get the correlation
ownership, or we can do Myers. Yeah,
give me the correlation. Yeah, so that gives a strong correlation there. We got Bijan, Tony Pollard, Mike Evans, Jacoby. We will end up with Baker Mayfield on this team. While Dot Boy Fresh makes his picks here, we can figure out how to keep this guy from getting an ass tattoo. Let me pull up the fantasy points projections. I need to know though, PPR, half PPR, what is the scoring system for this league? And then me and Ryan can give our best takes to avoid an ass tattoo. I mean, that's high stakes, man. Like I certainly wouldn't want something like that. Yeah. Wow. What are your thoughts on that punishment, Ryan, okay, it's full PPR, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that punishment, league punishments in general?
I feel like a good league punishment is something that's not, because you want people to actually do it, right? Like, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. If I had a league punishment that was an ass tattoo, I probably just wouldn't do it. Like,
wow, Ryan, that's not very sportsmanlike of you.
I'm gonna permanently okay. I won't say I wouldn't do it. I probably wouldn't agree at the beginning to that being to play in the league if that's the punishment. Like I don't know, like permanently altering my body. Like the drunk combine is perfect because that's like,
I agree.
Yeah, that sucks and it's embarrassing or whatever. But it's something that is over after 45 minutes or however long they torture you guys for. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about like the permanent consequences.
What is the tattoo? Like, it's not it can't be a full ass cheek, right? Like, it's probably just a small, like, what exactly is the tattoo?
That's true. Yeah. Can I pick what the tattoo is?
Yeah. Can it just be anything, or does it have to be like Sincere McCormick? Like, because is there
any tattoo you could have on your ass that would like make it better? Like, there are certainly things that would make it worse. Best. What would be best?
Like a funny tattoo, right? Is better than not. There's no way it can't be my face. No. Tattoo can be anything as long as it's bigger than $50. Okay, so you have your freedom of choice here. That's
okay.
That definitely makes it better. It's a league where everyone is close. We're all looking forward to it. Yeah, very similar to my home league where like we would never do this, but if it was an ass tattoo punishment, I can't disrespect the boys. You know, I think you just got to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up our PPR projections here, and I'll also queue up a goal line stand draft because I imagine we will spend another couple minutes on this. Truly a fascinating question though. Do you have any instant reactions to Braylon Allen versus Tyrone Tracy? My gut kind of leans toward Allen. It's very similar spots though.
Well, he said he's got to start too, so I think it's.
Oh, he has to start too. Oh, okay.
Well, I think that's an easier question.
Yeah, I guess that is an easier question. Yeah, I was making that out to be way harder. Yeah, you're just starting Braylon and Tyrone Tracy. I just really don't think Sincere McCormick is in the conversation there. Obviously, there was good coach speak with him, but this is probably going to be a really gross committee. And I don't have the numbers pulled up right now, but I'm fairly confident in saying that the Las Vegas backfield has been significantly lower performing than both the Giants and the Jets, even though neither of those have been particularly great. Ryan, while we wait for this draft to fill, what would your bigger than $50 ass tattoo be if you finished last in this league?
I don't know, man. Like something nondescript, I guess. Like, I don't know. I've never thought of like what would I get for a tattoo. I can't get tattoos. Fun fact.
Really?
I'm on blood thinners, so I'm not allowed to get tattoos.
I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know
Yeah,
that like
so
people on blood thinners can't get tattoos. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess because like the tattoo itself would cause some bleeding, and that would be a problem.
yeah, it's like a high. Have you ever seen on the internet like those awful photos of like the infected tattoos? Where
Oh,
they're like
yeah,
all like
those
rotten and bright red and stuff. That's like the fear because
okay, I
they
see.
wouldn't.
Gotcha.
I mean, you could probably find tattoo artists that would do it. But it's probably it's generally not advisable.
Yeah, I've never been like one for tattoos, if only because I just can't figure out anything that I really want to commit to. Because it's like everything that I thought was super cool at like 19 or 20, for the most part, I don't like think it's nearly as cool looking now. So that's sort of the tough part with deciding on an ass tattoo.
When I was like 19 or whatever, I was close to getting an anchor because I was a lifeguard and I thought that was cool, and I'm very glad I didn't do that. So no, I feel you. Anything I would think was cool, I assume I just would not a couple years from that point.
Yeah, I think like most of my friends do not have tattoos. The handful that do generally got something small, and it was like 18, 19 years old, got something, and generally they're like, I kind of wish I didn't have that. I think the ones that are like very clearly people are still very happy with are when it's like commemorating a deceased loved one or someone in your immediate family that meant a lot to you. I think those you can always stand by. Top Boy Fresh is open to suggestions. Might let ChatGPT come up with something. I'm having a really hard time figuring out what I would do for an ass tattoo. I mean, that is really hard. Man, what would even look good? I guess it's on your ass.
Nothing's gonna look good or look cool.
No, that's kind of the the
dispose
thing.
with that notion. Yeah.
Chat. I'm kind of curious. What would ChatGPT say? Top 10 ass tattoos.
Are you typing it into ChatGPT right now?
Yeah, I just did.
Can you ask ChatGPT how long this 12-man draft is going to take to fill too? Now that
that's also a good question. We can hop into another wildcat while we tie a bow on the ass tattoo discussion. But oh my goodness, that is hilarious. Like what an absurd league punishment. ChatGPT gave a very vague reply: butterflies, tribal designs, florals, animal designs, small quotes or words. What quote do you get on your ass?
Run the damn ball.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Some sort of kneecap.
Trust the process.
Dan Campbell quote. Yeah. As a reminder when your DFS lineups land on their ass. Ooh, fantasy points. Thomas behind the glass with the fire reply. Why not average separation score shit on your ass? What if you got the top like 5 2024 average separation score players, just a list tattooed on your ass? I mean, imagine explaining that.
I have to have Adonai Mitchell on my ass for the rest of my life. Like not only do I have to live down touting Adonai Mitchell this season, but I have to live down having him on my ass for
fantasy receipts would have a field day with Adonai Mitchell.
Oh my god.
Part of me wants to go with something funny, but I don't know. It's that would be such a hard decision for me. I'm really glad I'm not in this home league here, because that is absolutely brutal, man. Wow. I mean, I would imagine like if a league like that runs long enough, you'd have guys that end up with 3, 4, 5 ass tattoos over the course of 20.
That's true. Years. Yeah. Is this the punishment every year? Like everyone's eventually going to end up with an ass tattoo?
If you're married, the answer is ask your wife. She's the only one who's going to see it, really. That would be, I mean, I would certainly ask for my very real girlfriend's input on my ass tattoo, but I also just feel like most significant others would be very disappointed that you ended up in a league where you have to get an ass tattoo because you lost.
I actually think it's way worse if you're single and you have to get an ass.
Yes, because then you have to explain that to like new people, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one for sure. It would definitely go over better in like a longer, more well-established relationship. Ryan, we drew the 106 here in this Wildcat draft. I'm kind of hopeful this guy takes. Oh, okay, he took AJ Brown. I mean, Bijan and Brock Bowers just seem like the obvious choices here based on our rankings and my intuition as well.
Yeah, let's do it. I like it.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to go a different direction with the stack, so we could avoid Baker in this draft. But yeah, I certainly like that angle. Again, guys, if you have any pressing Week 14 questions, we are more than happy to get to them. Although I don't think anything can beat a play two to avoid the ass tattoo type question. So change the punishment every year. This really set a precedent going forward, though. I'll update y'all on the result come playoff time. Yeah, please update us. I mean, the precedent this sets for future punishments is extreme, right? Because it kind of has to be something either like, I mean, I guess like equally insane, maybe not like quite as permanent.
What is more insane and permanent than a tattoo?
I mean, you could cut off like a tip of your finger or something, right? Like, I don't know. Like I have a hard time thinking of like what else keeps pace with ass tattoo. Is this a long running league? Like what have the other punishments been? Is this the first year?
Yeah, I want to know the rest of them.
Yeah, because like that might give us a better gauge. Like I'm not sure, like give yourself alcohol poisoning or something. Like I can't think of stuff
Saturday
that
night.
would be.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's just standard weekend activities.
Punishment.
Yeah, man, that is absolutely wild. Ryan, what direction do you think we should take the stack in this lineup? We already have the top two quarterbacks off the board. We didn't get Achane, but we could try to build like a Tua team. Caleb Williams, I also think is really interesting in these drafts. I know you didn't like him quite as much as I did on cashing points, but if we wanted a Caleb Williams team, we could start out with like a George Kittle, and then we could grab a Keenan, a DJ Moore, go with Caleb later on. I kind of like that as an option. What do you think here?
Yeah, I like either of those.
Okay.
If Pickens makes it here, we can do like Pickens, Judy, Jameis.
Ooh, yeah.
I like all these options.
All right. Yeah, we'll go Pickett. We'll prioritize Pickens here. Pickens is questionable with, I believe, a hamstring injury that popped up today. I do think that he will play. He was, like I said, on cashing points. He was shit talking Greg Newsome during his press conference. So someone who's doing that is more likely than not to
see. We said that. Are we sure about that? Would George Pickens really not be shit talking Greg Newsome regardless? Like I wouldn't put it past him. I don't know. I just think I wouldn't be surprised. He's like this is my. I'm not going to play. I know I'm not going to play. This is my chance to shit talk Greg Newsome in front of the entire media. Like, why would I not?
Yeah,
do we really think he would not do it? I don't know.
You're not wrong. Like I can't really disagree with that. Maybe.
I mean, I think he'll play, and I hope he's going to play. But I don't know. That if I was picking a guy in the league that would shit talk an opposing player,
not like
full well he's not actually going to play, it would probably be George Pickens.
You can't project this at all, but like there's tangible ejection risks with Pickens for every single game because he gets into a fight like every other week, basically, and especially when things have kind of been building between him and Newsome for multiple weeks. I mean, we saw them go at it when they played a few weeks back. This could be, this could be a real fight spot. Chris G says, "Get sweet cheeks." That's a terrible idea if you ever end up in jail. Really, really.
Oh my God.
So he says, Dot Boy Fresh says, "This is year 2. Last year, my buddy had to play the recorder on a busy street for 3 hours. That sucks, but that's not nearly as bad as like an ass tattoo. That's closer to on par with like drunk combine spending 24 hours in Waffle House." He said his dad's also in the league and he was down somehow. That's quite the league then. You've got a really special league, and I hope it never folds because it takes a special group of people to agree to something that insane. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
the Waffle House punishment that's like pretty popular.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
feel like
that's
that's
got to be
that
the most
bad.
popular one, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like
Yeah.
it's that bad. I feel like
No,
that's fun.
it's not. Yeah, and like you could like theoretically you could bring like a laptop, right, and just like goof
Yeah.
off for like 16 hours in a Waffle House, and eat a like generally it's like 24 hours, but for each waffle you eat, it knocks an hour off. Like it's not that bad. You could probably eat 6, 8 waffles over the course of 24 hours. You're there for like a full Saturday, but it's not the worst thing ever. Um, Drunk Combine's going to make you feel worse physically for sure, but it's over a lot faster. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very pro league punishment because I definitely think it's key to like motivating. Like, say you have a 10-team league, top 4 make the playoffs. It's kind of key to motivating those people that are fighting to stay out of last place to avoid the punishment. It makes those games feel like they matter. The key is getting, like, depending on your league, it's getting a punishment that people will actually do, because there's nothing worse than when everyone's just kind of like, oh, or the guy who finished last, like, oh well, I'm actually not gonna do that. So yeah, it's building the punishment around the how into the league everyone is, and Ass Tattoo definitely signals some serious commitment from everyone playing in that league. All right, Ryan, final 2 picks here. We got Bijan, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Brock Bowers. I already got Jameis queued up. We need another running back. We could also make this a 3 wide receiver build with a guy like Elijah Moore. I don't necessarily hate that, although Aaron Jones would probably be my favorite. We already have Bijan, and I'm never super excited to take 2 running backs in the same game, so maybe we should go a different angle. What do you think?
I mean, we took Pollard already, but he'd probably be my favorite here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It probably would be Pollard unless we want to go Elijah Moore. But yeah, let's go. I've already taken a couple Judy Elijah teams with Jameis, so let's go Tony Pollard. Also, if you guys are wondering why my DraftKings screen looks a little bit, or sorry, my Underdog screen looks a little bit different than the default, there are great tools available at bestballoverlay.com. You can use promo code PARTY for $10 off. One of my favorites is this combinatorial exposures tool. So you can see like Jameis Winston plus George Pickens. How much do I have of that? I don't have any. And if you were drafting a ton of Jameis plus George Pickens, it would let you know, and makes it easy to back off. I think especially in these draft style formats, very easy to cluster your picks. You say like, oh, I every time I'm taking George Pickens, I'm going to end up on a Jameis Winston stack. Not necessarily optimal, because you're giving yourself a very narrow path to victory within your Jameis Winston stacks. So definitely check out the great tools over at bestballoverlay.com. They're specific to best ball and battle royale. I know the guys behind the tools. I've talked to them quite a bit. We had Fantasy Dog Pound on the show a couple weeks ago. So definitely worth checking out over there. Again, that's promo code PARTY for $10 off per month at bestballoverlay.com. But we ended up with a Jameis, Bijan, Tony Pollard, Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Brock Bowers team. Ryan, let's see if we can get into a 12-man draft that might close us out here. Still need 8 people, so that's pretty tough. We can get through another Wildcat, and then maybe, just maybe, we can squeeze into a 12-man draft. Again, guys, if you have any pressing questions, we'll probably be on for another 15, 20 minutes here, so definitely feel free to keep asking those. I guess I can actually check on the $3 to see if that's close to filling up either, because I would really like to do a 12-man. I think it's a great week for 12-man contests. I don't necessarily know that it's a great week overall for 12-man drafts, but I'm still going to fire a bunch, because I really don't think we will see another 20K to first goal line stand anytime soon here, assuming that overlays and doesn't quite fill up. Still
you have to be the one to fill it, Jake. That's like a 7,500 entry contest. Is it 150 max? Like
it is.
You can get that like 4% of the way there if you really. Probably not true if you really try.
It's funny you say that, because like, yeah, I could, but like that's basically me in UFL, where it's like, in order to keep these contests the same size, we need to fill them up. And so I'm jamming like as much as I can afford just to keep the ecosystem alive. I know like Cody Main and Justin Freeman, the other great UFL content creators, are basically doing the exact same thing. So yeah, we're all putting our hard-earned dollars on the line to keep the spring football ecosystem on the line. And you could make the same case for 12-man drafts, roughly as niche as spring football here. But we drew the 105, which is tough. So we aren't going to get to grab any Saquon or Kamara, at least in these 6-mans on stream. Ryan, I know like this is a really tough week for game environments. There aren't really any that stand out to me. Are there any to you that you really want to prioritize? Because we have, I mean, almost all these games are hovering between a 43, 46 point total. Obviously, we have Bills, Rams significantly higher than that, but that's sort of a tricky game to stack outside of the Stafford doubles. Any of these game environments really jumping out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest two are the ones that we've already taken quarterbacks from, which is the Raiders-Bucks game, which I think is very clearly a good game environment. Two pass funnels kind of meeting, two teams that have been willing to throw the ball a lot. So I like that one. And then, we just saw the Steelers get goaded into a shootout last week. We've seen the Browns goad basically everybody into shootouts. So those are the ones I like the most. After that, it's not a lot. I can talk myself into Minnesota, Atlanta, if that's what you want to go with here.
That is kind of what I was thinking. Should we go Jefferson first, since we've already taken so much Bijan? I guess.
Sure.
Well, yeah, Jefferson has the higher ADP. So, whoa, my cat just blew through my office, and like my ring light is on a wire, and he just ran straight through the wire and ripped the ring light off my desk as he ran through there. Yeah, that was what a beast he is. Those are young cat guy activities. That guy's going crazy. Ryan, you don't have any pets, do you?
I don't know. I'm not supposed to have pets in this apartment, unfortunately. I am allergic to cats. Fun fact. Not to dogs, though. That would be very sad if I was allergic to dogs. But
yeah, that is very sad. It seems like cat allergies are way more popular. I'm not quite sure what direction I want to go here. I guess probably Evans or Puka.
Yeah, I think so. Let's take Puka just because we haven't taken him yet.
Yeah, let's go with Puka. A little diversification there. I think we can still build a decent Atlanta team. I'm kind of tempted by the idea of going, we'll grab Darnold later on. I'm a little tempted going Darnell Mooney here. This is a really strong matchup for both of these Atlanta wide receivers. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Ryan?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, on paper, the Vikings have allowed the most schedule adjusted to opposing wide receivers. They are also a very strong pass funnel, so they should be inviting a lot of pass game production. Drake London has been kind of pulling away from Mooney in terms of target share over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But you could also say that has coincided with Kirk Cousins just playing terribly and not being able to throw an accurate ball 10 yards downfield. So in the context of we're stacking up this game and we need this game to shoot out, I think you're fine going with Mooney and just leaning more into he was seeing basically the same usage as London for most of the season. Kind of up through a few weeks ago and saying, okay, hopefully we return to that. Schematically, it's pretty good for both of them. The Vikings spam a lot of too high, and both of the Falcons receivers and Kirk Cousins, weirdly, are a lot better against too high this year. So, I think Mooney is a decent click here in like a weird 3 wide receiver build. I can't get too upset about that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking if we're determined to go Darnold Mooney, we only have to fill out tight end, running back here. I kind of want to wait on running back because I'm just not super excited about any of these guys. So looking at the best available tight ends, we'd be looking at Kittle and Njoku. Do you have a strong preference between the two? I feel pretty similarly about both. Our projections do as well.
I think I just go Kittle just for the touchdown equity that we've seen throughout the season. I don't know. It's annoying with Njoku. I really thought he would be killing it with Jameis, but the offense has just been so spread out, unfortunately, and he kind of hasn't had the blow up games yet that we've seen from Jerry Jeudy and from Cedric Tillman at times. But I definitely lean Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough with Njoku. His ADOT's been crazy low as of late. I believe it's right around 5 the last 3 weeks. But he is actually, do we Do we want to go running back here? It's a bit of a reach for Darnold at this point. Pollard,
Yeah.
Garendo.
Let's do like a Garendo team. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I
Or,
kind of like.
no, we have
No,
we
no,
have
I
Kittle.
actually I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Yeah, I mean, we're just it's a bet on the San Francisco offense, so I think it's
That's
okay.
fine,
It's not
yeah.
something I'm itching to do on a ton of teams, but if San Francisco absolutely rolls here, I mean, Garendo and Kittle could both put up monster scores, and maybe Purdy doesn't necessarily end up optimal if Garendo runs a couple in. So I'm totally cool with that, and then we can round things out with Darnold and Mooney, and then see if we can finish things off here with a 12-man draft. Trying to think here. Any love for Najee Harris? I mean, I know we kind of already talked about this on what was it? Cashing Points. So I feel like I already know where you're at, but for for DFS, he's going to pull some tangible ownership. For Battle Royale with an ADP of 34, I feel like this is pretty clearly my favorite format to take Najee Harris. I mean, we know, with Jameis Winston at quarterback, this game has a huge range of outcomes, right? So, there's certainly some where Najee Harris just gets absolutely fed. He had his best usage of the season last week. Are you on board with Najee as like a later round sort of running back option in this format?
Yeah, I definitely am. And it's for all the reasons you said. Like, it just takes a couple of Jameis Winston interceptions, some short fields for it to just be a game the Steelers get up in. It was kind of weirdly was what we saw last week, where they were just kind of up for the entire second half with the Bengals chasing them. And yeah, it worked pretty well for Harris there, even despite him like missing a drive earlier in the game. So yeah, I'm cool with Harris in this format specifically. Yeah, because you get an ownership discount. In DFS, it's just hard to imagine him keeping up with either like the much cheaper guys that project way better, or obviously the incredible pay up options with the Saquons and the Camaras and whatnot. It's hard to compete with.
Yeah, and I mean, looking around the industry, like, it does look like he's going to be pretty popular in DFS, and I think that's part of the advantage of playing, multiple formats or playing on something like FanDuel and DraftKings for DFS, is that you can get exposure to players on the site where it's actually best to get exposure to them, sort of like a bit of an arbitrage strategy for fantasy sports, which is something that I really like, because there are just guys that I want to play, but sometimes it's like, oh, their DFS ownership is massive and their price doesn't quite work, so you just can't really get there. Either way, though, it looks like we are going to end up with a Sam Darnold, Isaac Garendo, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Darnell Mooney, George Kittle team. I'm sure we've covered this on previous episodes, but I'm generally looking for, maybe 70 to 80% of my builds to be 2 running back, 2 wide receiver. But I do think 3 wide receiver builds are certainly viable as long as you are just mindful of sort of who you're taking and what your stack is. And for this game in particular, I think we really need Atlanta to show up in some capacity for Darnold to reach a ceiling. And, along that vein, I don't think I'd hate like a Sam Darnold, Bijan Robinson, Justin Jefferson, Darnell Mooney team. Even that would be pretty solid, because I think that is my big concern with Minnesota, is that they just won't get pushed. I mean, the spread's pretty significant here. It's like 6 points, 6.5, if I remember correctly there. So certainly worth keeping that in mind when you're drafting a Sam Darnold team. Let's see if we can get into a goal line stand to finish things off here, and it doesn't look like we will be able to. That is very unfortunate. Maybe we can make a squib kick happen. But I do think this is a good, like I said, good week for 12-man draft contests, not necessarily a good week overall for 12-man drafts, just based on the players we'll have available. Okay, only 3 people left in a squib kick. If you guys want to hop in the squib kick, I think we can manage to wait this out for a couple minutes. Only need 2 more spots. So hopefully this fills in the next handful of minutes there. Ryan, are there any spots that you still find yourself being very, very unsure about on this slate? For me, it's probably the Bills, in the sense that, like, I actually have no idea what to do with Josh Allen stacks. Not that I'm going to end up on many, but like, especially in a battle royale format, I think I want to, if I'm drafting 50 Wildcat teams, I want a little bit of Josh Allen exposure. And maybe this is the draft to do it. We drew pick 6 here in a 12-man. Yeah, on Cashing Points, I believe you highlighted Keon Coleman, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean Coleman is just kind of a pure matchup bet, right? So the Rams have been this big perimeter funnel all season. They've always leaned towards single high. Both of those things would help out Coleman, who was running the most routes of any Bills receiver back when he was healthy. But I mean, again, he's been out since week 9 with this wrist injury. He was limited in practice today, I believe, listed as questionable. Same with Dalton Kincaid. We don't even know who's going to be on the field for the Bills at this moment. So yeah, it's pretty difficult. And there's nobody other than like Khalil Shakir that I'm that confident is actually going to run more than 50% of the routes this weekend. So yeah, it just becomes very, very, very hard to lean into anybody. I mean, maybe in a 12-man, I could talk myself into a Coleman or a Shakir. But how large of a field is this contest? I didn't.
So this is, if I remember correctly, I believe it's 3,700 entrants. I'm going to pull this up on a different monitor so that I'm not mistaken. But I believe the main goal line stay in the $15 entry tournament is larger than the $3 squib kick. Yeah, I am correct. $3 squib kick, 3,700 entrants, 12-man drafts, $1K to first, $3 to enter. We drew the 106. Yeah, Bijan is probably going to end up being our best available, assuming he doesn't go at pick 5. We probably do want to have a stack in mind here. We could go with a naked Hurts. We have been talking a bit about Josh Allen, who I don't think I'd hate in like a 12-man, because we could probably get Cooper Kupp with our next pick in the second round.
Let's
all right.
Screw it. Let's do a Josh Allen.
Let's do a Josh Allen build.
It's probably not optimal for 12 mans. Honestly,
I mean, probably not. I think Josh Allen pretty clearly going overdrafted. I mean, I'm sure we covered this at the top of the show, but I outright prefer Jalen Hurts. He projects about 2 points better, I think, for us. So yeah, Hurts is like the overall better play, but Josh Allen is still a guy you want a little bit of exposure to. I mean, like we said on Cashing Points and like we said here, this is the highest total game of the slate. So there is some potential juice here for sure. I'll queue up, not that Puka's going to fall to us, but I'll queue up Puka and Cooper Kupp, because I think we pretty clearly want those guys to be our next pick. And the nice thing is, like, if we don't really find a great spot, like maybe if just great values drop to us every time, I don't hate rolling Josh Allen out there naked. So that's fine too. But I'm on my second beer, so I'm pretty much willing to draft whoever comes to us at this point in the evening. Yeah, I think one of the funniest things about Underdog is that they will extend like revolutionary technology. He has the biggest player card I've ever seen in one.
Yeah, how many? What is there a character limit on the usernames? I assume there must be, but
there has to be. That's like basically a novel compared to everyone else. That Boy Fresh asked, "What's y'all's beer of choice?" I'm currently drinking Blue Moon, although I generally lean towards light beers because Blue Moons are so filling. I have Blue Moons on tap because I like to make beer battered brats, where you cook some brats in beer. Really, really nice. It adds like a nice flavor to the brats, and Blue Moon's best for that. Light beers don't really do much in terms of adding flavor, but Blue Moon's really nice.
Is Blue Moon not considered a light beer?
No, Blue Moon's like pretty heavy. Like a Miller Lite is like 100 calories. I think Blue Moon's like 280 or something. So
I guess I just don't like light beer. I guess Blue Moon.
No, are you an IPA guy, Ryan?
No, I'm not at all an IPA guy.
Okay,
I'm not that huge of a beer guy, but yeah, if I'm drinking beer, it's Blue Moon or it's Sam Summer or something in that.
Oh yeah, summer shandies are really good. I love those.
I like the porch rockers. Those are fun in the summer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't. I guess I don't drink much beer between the months of September and March. It's like me, my dad, and my brother have a group chat that no one ever texts in. But once a year, whoever finds Sam Summer somewhere first will just send it in that group chat, and you can scroll up like years going back, where this is the only thing that we use this group chat for.
Oh, that's
awesome. To alert each other that Sam Summer is somewhere in the world now.
Yeah, that's kick-ass. I like that a lot. That's classic guy group chat too. It's like never talking about anything except for beer once a year. That's pretty great. Hopefully we get Cooper Kupp here. We're looking at a Josh Allen Cooper Kupp team to start things off, which I think is really strong for a 12-man draft. Again, hard to pick out these Buffalo pieces, but at least on the Rams side, I mean, we know basically all the usage is going to Kupp, Nakua, Kyron Williams. They're also doing a tight end by committee now, so tight ends total dust in Los Angeles. Yeah, really like the build that we are starting out with here. I will say, as we draft Cooper Kupp, that in the last year or so, I feel like I've moved a lot more toward red wine compared to before. I feel like I was big beer guy in college, and then lately all the cheap red wine that I've purchased at Kroger, or sometimes my girlfriend will get stuff from Aldi. It's actually really good. It's really flavorful, and you can get $8 a bottle red wine that actually tastes good. Yeah, Ryan, I don't know what your main alcohol of choice is, but if I'm not drinking beer, it's almost always red wine. Never been a huge fan of hard liquor, but if I do, I'll go whiskey, or maybe like a mixed type drink, like a Moscow Mule.
Yeah, I'm definitely red wine over white wine. Do you have
Oh, for sure.
I forget what it's called. It might be called an aerator or something. It's a thing that you pour the wine through, and it airs it out or something, and it makes it taste way better. Yeah,
it makes it taste way
actually
better?
Works. Yes,
it does?
It
really?
turns $8 a bottle red wine into.
Oh, isn't that called decanting? I think.
Oh yeah, maybe. No? I don't know. Maybe.
I kind of want to look.
Is decanting the thing? I think decanting is the weird funnel thing that sits on the table at a fancy restaurant that they put it in and it sits there. I don't know.
How is that different?
We're two extremely uncultured guys trying to talk about red wine right now, which is funny. But
yeah, what is what's the difference between a decanting thing? Because I'm looking at these on my screen, and it is just kind of an open tube to hold your wine. So what would be the difference between that and an aerator? I don't know. We did actually get a question relevant to the task at hand. Can you say again why you like 2 wide receiver and 2 running back versus wide receiver in your flex? It's just because running backs are higher scoring. Fantasy Dog Pound did a show with, I believe it was Billy Jones, where they sort of analyzed some of what's historically won in Battle Royale. 2 running back builds historically have done significantly better than 3 wide receiver builds. So it's just something that I generally steer myself towards. I mean, and we can say, Ryan, from experience just doing this show, once you get into the 6th round, you can pretty easily find a running back projected for 12 or 13 underdog points in the 6th round. A bit harder to do that at a position like wide receiver, where there is generally a bigger projection drop off between the top guys. And this has just overall been a really strong year for running backs. We have a lot of guys seeing great workloads. Speaking of running backs, I think I probably want to go running back with this pick. We have Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp, plenty of good running backs on the board. Aaron Jones, clearly my favorite. Let me pull up the position and make sure I'm not missing anyone. After that, it'd be Najee, James Conner. Yeah, James Conner and Kenneth Walker, I think, are tough clicks. Obviously, Kenneth Walker, especially so because of the Q tag. So not really considering him. Ryan, I'm curious what your thoughts are on Conner, because he just doesn't really stand out to me as a play. Arizona's passing a bit more. Obviously, Trey Benson is still a bit involved. Do you have any take on James Conner?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole problem. So, Connor's passing game role has actually just gotten better and better over the past month. He's running more routes than we've really ever seen him do. Maybe even going back to his Pittsburgh days was the last time that he was running as many routes as he has been. But yeah, Benson getting more involved on the ground. The Cardinals just kind of abandoning the run over the last 2 games. Seattle also a very big pass funnel matchup. I don't know if we talked about this, but the Cardinals pass rate over expectation has just spiked coming out of the bye over these past 2 weeks.
That was a big note on caching points, and I also think it's a big note for this slate, and it definitely makes me want to lean into some Kyler Murray. I know we didn't really get to any Kyler teams, but Kyler I think is a really interesting play overall on this slate because, as Ryan said, massive spike in pass rate coming out of the bye. Do you want to keep going down that vein?
No, that's pretty much it. That's the the whole take. It's not a particularly enticing matchup from any schematic or on paper angles. The Seahawks have been pretty good against the deep ball, against receivers out wide.
Yep.
They loaded up a bunch of too high against the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, and it worked pretty well at limiting what they were wanting to do. So I don't think it's like a smash spot or anything, but it makes me more interested in like a Kyler plus Harrison stack than I would have been without that note, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly think that is fair. I mean, this feels like it could be a game environment that blows up. And again, like, I mean, we sort of highlighted throughout this show, this is a slate without any really tempting game environments. Even even Rams Bills, it's just tricky to stack, and you could certainly see Stafford doubles failing against a tough Bills defense that doesn't give up anything deep. So, that makes me want to lean into some of these like alt game environments where, normally I'm never super excited to play a game with a 43.5, 44 point total. Or I guess it's 44.5 according to the great tools at Best Ball Overlay. But yeah, with Arizona's pass rate spiking, I do think this is certainly an interesting spot to go after Cardinals, Seahawks. Top Boy Fresh says PBR never does him wrong. I have not drank PBR, Keystone Light. Those were beers that I drank in college and then just never touched again after I graduated. I don't know if you have a light beer take, because like if I'm drinking light beer, it's either Miller Lite or I live in Georgia now, but when I'm in Cincinnati, Cincy Light, because 3% of every Cincy Light purchase goes to our NIL collective, and the beer has done fabulous.
Really?
Yes. So our NIL collective has gotten like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from Cincy Light. It's one of the most popular beers in the area because it's actually really good. But yeah, I'm curious if you have a light beer take, Ryan, as we come up on our fourth round pick here.
Keystone is like the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life.
No, it's Genesee is the worst light beer I've ever tasted in my life. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Never had that.
Oh my God. I had that at a frat party once. Way worse than Keystone, man.
Keystone was what they gave us for like my freshman year of college. I was on the club soccer team, and that was there was an away game that was like 3 hours away. And the incentive was like, we'll buy everyone who drives a 30 rack, and they gave me Keystone Light. And
wow,
I was really upset about that transaction. Yeah, I was pretty mad about that.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's always hard to get behind those, those fringe light beers. I'm sure I still could, but like once I leveled up to Miller Lite, it's hard to go back.
I don't even like Miller. I just
that's fair.
There's no like if I'm drinking light beer, it's probably just Bud Light.
Yeah,
like, that's the one that's the least offensive to me.
We are on the clock here. I kind of want to take a running back. I don't really care about the other wide receivers available because I know we can wait on these Buffalo guys.
Yeah, agreed.
Swift, Allen, Tracy. I kind of lean Swift is my favorite. Unless we're scared about the Q tag.
Swift with some goal line work.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with Swift is sure, like game script isn't great, and he's a guy who's going to get a lot of carries. The really good news for Swift though is that Roschon Johnson is out for sure, and it does sound like based on coach speak that Swift plays. So and I mean I know I've harped on this on previous shows, but in these 12-man drafts, the absolute last thing you want to get stuck with is a 6th-round running back. I mean, that is like a death sentence because running back drops off very quickly. As you'll see probably in the next 12 picks, basically every viable running back will be off the board. And then you have to take shots on like Charbonnet and hope Kenneth Walker's out, or you're just taking shots on guys who are on, like the 40% side of a 60-40 committee, which is always just absolutely heinous. But so far, I really like what we have. We've got Josh Allen, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, need another receiver and a tight end here.
Tight end's actually not as bad as I expected it to be by now.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the nice thing with these 12-man drafts this week is that tight end doesn't get too gross. So, like, you could end up, if you draft the last tight end, you could still end up with, like, a Juwan Johnson, who I kind of like overall. Certainly not too bad there. I think, with the board looking the way it is, Hawkinson's not a guy that I'm super excited about, given that Josh Oliver is back. We really haven't seen Hawkinson run the full set of routes when Josh Oliver is on the field because they love Josh Oliver as a run blocker, but you obviously can't telegraph run versus pass super strong in the NFL because the league will pick up on that. So you have to leave Josh Oliver in on, some of those passing snaps, and that does hurt Hawkinson's route share. I guess if Shakir came back to us, given his ranking, we would probably have to take him unless you feel strongly about some of these other tight end options. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Shakir's probably just the way to go.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like he has like, I think the stat I put in everything report is he has the third fewest air yards of any receiver, next to Wan'Dale Robinson and Demario Douglas or something to that effect. Yeah, I mean, the floor's high, the usage is good, he's getting all the design targets and stuff, but it's just not like nothing that's going to win you a tournament. But I mean, with Allen, I think it's fine. Like, you just want him to catch touchdowns.
Yeah, and like I do think maybe this is maybe they're DFS or Battle Royale pros, people who are better than me who would disagree. But I do think in these 12-man drafts, like, floor has to be a consideration, because I've had a lot of good teams killed by a 5th or 6th round pick that just does absolutely nothing. And at the very least with Shakir, I mean, I don't know if he can get you 25 half PPR, but he can definitely get you 10. And if, this game environment goes off like we hope it does, and, Allen scores 30 and Kupp has a good game, our running backs do all right, we're still in a really good spot with a 10 from Shakir. So I do think that's something to keep in mind in these deeper drafts, is that floor does matter a little bit more. Obviously, we're still, as always, searching for ceiling when you're trying to win a GPP with 3, 5, 10, 50,000 entries. But yeah, I do think floor matters. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right, because it's gonna be, especially in a week like this, I think it's gonna be really hard where like the projections, especially with the first 2 guys, are very high, and then they drop off so quickly.
Oh yeah,
like I think it's gonna be very hard to land on like a quote unquote optimal team. So yes. I think
for sure
playing a little for floor at the end is fine.
Yeah, I think so. We kind of have a big question coming up at tight end. I mean, given the board, we can anticipate another 1 or 2 of these guys will be taken here, because there are still a handful of teams that need tight end. Kyle Pitts gives us a little bit of correlation with Aaron Jones, as you can see highlighted by the best ball overlay tool. That's why his name is sort of team tag is popping up in purple, because we already have taken the Aaron Jones selection. Another great feature of the bestballoverlay.com tools is that they show off the correlation. So yeah, Pitts would be an interesting correlation bet. Kincaid in the 6th round, I don't necessarily hate, because if he's out, we just, sub to someone else and we don't really lose any equity there. The problem is, like, Josh Allen double stacks are a really hard pill to swallow, because Josh Allen could score 40 or 35, 30, and, all the touchdowns go to Amari Cooper, Coleman, or Mac Hollins, the guys that we don't draft because the offense is so spread out, which makes doubles really hard to stomach. So I sort of lean towards taking somebody else. I'm curious what your take is. I mean, if we knew Kincaid was out, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with Knox. I don't know.
There's one tight end on here that has actually shown a weekly ceiling this year, and his name's Cole Kmet.
I like that.
This can be Swift is already a bet on the Bears offense, right? Someone else is probably going to have to score touchdowns for Swift to hit. So I like Kmet the most.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely like that take. Kmet was another guy I was sort of considering there. In our projections, he doesn't look great, but at least we know the Bears are more likely than not going to have to throw the ball in the spot. I mean, we've seen pretty significant P-rows from these Thomas Brown offenses. So assuming
DJ Moore's beat up, like, it could happen. I don't know. Trying to talk myself into Cole Kmet at the end of a battle royale draft is just
it's tough. Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's just how it goes, Ryan. We're at the end of a 12-man. It's totally destitute. We're both a little tipsy. Cole Kmet did make it back to us. So yeah, I think I like that pick the most. We already have a bit of a bet on the Bears offense. So we're going to end up here. Final draft: Josh Allen, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Khalil Shakir, Cole Kmet. I think this is a really strong team. All we really need to happen is, Bills Rams goes off, which the total kind of suggests that it could. Maybe Shakir catches a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, performs reasonably well. And then we have, two strong running backs, two guys who could push for a 70-75% snap share fairly easily in their respective games. I think, Aaron Jones has the pass catching upside. Swift, probably not quite as much, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the San Francisco offense totally just fumble, this game away because they're so injured. And then we have Cole Kmet. So if the Bears roll, there's a decent chance Swift and Kmet end up scoring a lot of those fantasy points. So I think totally reasonable team for a 12-man draft. And that will do it for the Week 14 edition of the Underdog Drafter Party. I appreciate Ryan for sticking around. I think this might be our longest show of the year. And also appreciate all the questions in chat. Appreciate the ass tattoo discussion that we had earlier. But for me, for Ryan, for producer Thomas behind the glass, we really appreciate all you guys tuning in. We will see you next week, and we will see you at the top of the leaderboards. What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.